And with that, I would like to bring up to the stage here Natasha Metzger, Kate Hoof, and Tim Horgan to have a little bit of discussion about their experience on producing and working through this video process with us. I think, Tim, you're we're on that, right? I think you are probably the most senior of the people on the team here, because you certainly predate Cultural Vistas with your work up in New Hampshire. Can you tell me, what is the one connection between Manchester and somewhere else in the world that has been made through the IVLP that you're most proud of?
Well, I think as you saw in the video, the connections that our home hospitality hosts make to their visitors is really important for both the visitors and our hosts. They do get to travel and visit the people that they already know, that they've met before. We've connected people. Actually, there was a young student from New Hampshire who was going to Argentina and study abroad, and one of the professors at that university that she was going to had just visited. So we were able to connect her up with one of her professors prior to her attending that school. So I think those kind of connections, those partnerships that we build are really important.
And it promotes that Americans abroad exchange.
Yes.
Good idea. I see a theme here. Natasha, you're with visitors for almost 3 weeks, and you had the most exposure to them of all of the different individuals that worked on the program. Can you tell us your favorite memory or conversation from this program that maybe some of the participants alluded to while spending the personal time with the visitors? Because you get to know them very well.
I had a lot of favorite moments with this group. It was a wonderful group. But I think one of my favorite when we went to San Antonio, and after a wonderful tour on a boat, we went to the restaurant, and we started talking about what is our expectation about future. And so my group members started talking about what they expect from life, where they see themselves in the future, what they want from family. And during this conversation, many of them realized how different they are. They came from different backgrounds, different culture, different traditions, and even so, they were so different. They had very similar ideas, what they want for the future, what they want for the young people in their own countries, what challenges they have, and how they would like to help the young people in their own country to overcome that. And it was an eye-opening experience not only for me, it was an eye-opening experience for each of them. And they were so passionate about the differences and similarities that conversation was actually moved to the bus. And on the way back to where we went?
Back to Austin.
Austin. Yeah, from San Antonio to Austin. We continued that conversation, and more people was involved and talking about it. So that was my favorite moment, where the young people realized how different they are, and at the same time, how united they are in the goals and ideas.
Now, did any of them record any of this experience so they could bring it back home with them? And
I think Kate had opportunity to catch the end of a conversation, right?
Yeah. Well, Kate, as an outsider to the sort of, you're not part of the IVLP program. You're a teacher down in Richmond, Virginia. What was it like to travel around with this group for 3 weeks? We gave you only a little bit of sort of warning about what it would be like. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
It was really fun to see these 13 participants see the 4 different cities so differently, because it was Washington, D.C., and then New York City, and then from New York we went to Concord, New Hampshire, and we kept having the discussion about what is the real America, or they did, and they couldn't figure it out, because they went from New York to Concord to Austin to Seattle, and each one had a distinct feel for them, and they could not define what the real America was, seeing those 4 different cities, but they enjoyed all of the cities, and so it was really fun to see the reactions to the travel.
And as an outsider, again, to the program, do you think that's a success or a failure of the program?
Oh, I think it's definitely a success of the program, because there's not, breaking down the stereotypes. There's not one particular perception or stereotype that they could adhere to because they couldn't pinpoint any one characteristic necessarily. They saw it as a diverse country as opposed to the stereotypes that they maybe were familiar with before travel.
And for those of you who are not familiar with the International Visitor Program, Leadership Program, the CBMs, there are 90-some across the country, they compete to have visitors come to their region. They're very anxious and happy to have visitors from a variety of different programs, as Tim mentioned in the video. So Tim, what would you say are the top reasons to come to Manchester in New Hampshire? I mean, besides the snow up to here right now.
Right, right. Well, if you want to see snow, it's a great place to see snow. And we've had groups from warm countries such as Indonesia come and go snow tubing and spend the whole day, you know, borrowing as many gloves and hats as I can scrounge up for them. But a lot of what we see in New Hampshire is government groups, state and local. We have about 400 state representatives in our house, and they're all paid $100 a year, so they're all very, very accessible. They don't have staff to go through. I can just contact them directly, and we do a lot with transparency as well in our government, and a lot of great success stories of transparency being built in New Hampshire. So I think that's really the big draw out of all of the great resources that we do have up there.
And Natasha, of all the different groups, you've worked as, I guess, a Russian interpreter as well in some of the other IVLP programs. What was different about this group, or unique about this group?
I think what unique was that this group very quickly clicked. They love each other company. They spend a lot of time together. They share their personal stories, and some stories was unbelievable. And they were impressed with each other. They were supportive, they were sharing ideas. So I think what was making different this group, that they were upbeat, they're very happy, they were open-minded to everything, and they were confining sometimes. They're saying, I was kind of afraid to go to the United States on this program. I was kind of concerned a little bit. I didn't expect the Americans going to be so friendly. I didn't realize how beautiful this country is. You know, I can't believe how safe you feel here. So it was wonderful to see the perceptual changes, and you see that with many groups. But there was something about this, maybe because of the topic or because the people who were selected on this program, the youth, the upbeat, the willingness to be together, spend time together, and they were crying when they're leaving. So I think that's what was make it special.
And I am not a big fan of reality TV. So what was it like having a videographer following you around for 3 weeks? And is this real? Is what we saw real TV, reality TV for the IVLP? Yeah,
I think it really accurately shows what they saw, what they did, and the impact that the program can have. We have groups come through all the time, and it really does change their perceptions, their understanding of what the U.S. is and what we stand for. The biggest thing is always visitors are just so impressed with how nice people are here, how welcoming they are, and you know, I think it really does change their perception of the U.S.
And I feel like Kate was wonderful because I think after the first couple of days, people forgot that she's there. She was so unobtrusive, and I think most of them, I don't know what interviews, but in general, during the normal days, I felt like they were the same when we had a video camera rolling or when we didn't have it. So I think it didn't affect who they are and what they did and how they act.
Yeah, we had a special signal. They just had to go like this if they didn't want the camera on them. So I got
when
that
they wanted
to be
off mic.
Right.
Well, and I know you had, as you see, the film was co-produced by Richard Bobo, working with Kate, and coordinated a lot of the activity there. Did you have a chance to meet some of the participants when you weren't sitting there filming them, when they went like this?
Absolutely. I feel like Richard and I definitely got to know the participants, and you know, because we were involved in their conversations off camera. I mean, the record button was not on the entire time at all. So it was really nice to get to know such an interesting group of people who had such fantastic individual stories and where they were coming from. And yeah, so it's just a really, for me as someone behind the camera, just to have the opportunity to be able to help tell the story was an incredible experience on my end. So I would like to thank Cultural Vistas for that opportunity.
No, thank you. And I guess as the outsider to the program, I mean, this is our job for the rest of us. Do you see you wouldn't necessarily call yourself a citizen diplomat, even though we all are. Do you see the value of this, and how can you describe this to the students that you speak to every day in your school?
I do see the value in this because we, as I know I'm preaching to the choir in this group, but we have more similarities than the differences, and just to have that cultural understanding, it's so valuable. And my students in Chesterfield County, Virginia, need things like this to be able to see beyond their cul-de-sacs. And I encourage them in my high school teaching. I was showing this or versions of this every week to my students, and so that, just to expose them to the filmmaking process, but also to the perspectives that were shown in this video, and to show the perspectives of people who are not from this country and how they view the United States. And so that's an education from my students as well, and it's so valuable, and I hope that they'll pursue opportunities in exchange when they can.
And I think from the final product that was created here, again, I think, Natasha, you'd be the best person to ask since you were with them the entire time. What do you think, is there anything that was missing from this thing that you wish that was really part of this final version, or this version of the video?
Well, that's a hard question.
The videographer sitting right next to you.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I really feel there's very hard to put in 25 minutes video all those important moments and aspects, because there is so much to their whole program. And I think the program is, one of the most successful programs I think there is for people-to-people diplomacy. And I experienced that firsthand. And I think this video reflected very well. But I think it's very hard to put in 25 minutes everything, So I think Kate did a great job.
And I guess in terms of the group itself, you said that you do, or the video you mentioned, you do a lot of youth programs in New Hampshire too. How is this compared to some of the other groups that have come in? Is this a typical group, or is this were there something unique, as Natasha mentioned? Were they closer? Were they just something typical for you?
It was a really good group. And I would say that in my experience, 95 to 98% of all groups are awesome. There are a few that have a bad visitor and make it a little less fun, but overall they're all really good. I think this group was particularly good in their inquisitive nature. I think that I remember that they would ask a question, and if they didn't get what they wanted out of that question, they would keep asking it. We had a meeting with the Office of Youth Services, and one of the visitors wanted to know what the best practice for working with youth was. And our meeting host was like, well, there's not really one best practice. There's ways that you can engage people. And they kept saying, no. What's the best practice? How do we do this? And it was this interesting, dynamic of, well, there's no right answer, but no, we need an answer. And just that inquisitive nature and wanting to get everything they could out of this program, I think, was really a highlight for this group.
And Kate, did you were you the one who was pulling in some of the alumni reflections from them?
No, that was Richard.
That was Richard. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about the I guess the process that you go through in selecting or putting together a video like this? You have hours and hours of footage, and hours of footage from 5 different cities. Why did you select, or how did you select some of the things that you put into this video?
Good question. I'm not sure what the process is actually. After start out watching all of the footage, and specifically the interviews, and I just make note of who, you start out with the basic questions: who, what, when, where, why, and how, and so I try to find the sound bites that answer the basic questions, and then the impact of those sound bites, and who says them succinctly and clearly. And then narrow it down from there because everyone was so well spoken who I interviewed. And then it just weaves together from there. And so with this, the initial thought with this video was to do all first-person narrative. But I realized in the process that I couldn't explain I couldn't explain fully the program without voiceover. So that's when I sat down and wrote a script and then weave the speakers, the interviews in with that. And then add footage to that. And then the last part of it was the West Virginia song, Take Me Home, and moments like that show the human side as much as possible.
Well, we'd like to open up to the audience if anyone has questions about the project, working in New Hampshire or working as an interpreter and escort of the program. Is there anyone who has any questions about the video or the process or the IVLP program? Yes.
Thank you. My name is Lauren Aiken. I work at Meridian International Center, managing their social media, and I'm also a program associate on the IVLP program, so this speaks to me in a lot of ways. Really great job, guys. And I was wondering just how the process even started. What was the first piece? How did it begin, and how did it evolve into such a great product?
I think that would be.
Well, that would be
you
us.
Guys.
Well, as Mara mentioned, this was a long process. We started this a while back in working with the State Department to select a program that we thought that would be something interesting to highlight as a part of the program. And then the Cultural Vistas program team that were mentioned in the video, we sat down and banged out what we wanted to do. Tried to figure out what we wanted to get out of this. You can do so many different things with a video, and so it was a while for us to get going. At the same time, where we, as you know, you have to reach out to the different agencies to try to get them to host the visitors here. So we had to go out in a kind of a special request for the particular programs to say, hey, would you like to host this group? And by the way, you're going to be videotaped the entire time. Even with this, you're still going to be videotaped. So, and it was a very long process by Stephen and Richard to put together the program, to select the cities that in New Hampshire and Austin and Seattle who would participate in the program. And then, we kind of turned it over to Kate. And of course, we had to get Natasha. Everybody was involved. We're talking many different layers of information at the State Department that we had meetings with. Tim Gibson and I had meetings with to make sure that they understood what we were trying to do and get out of it. So it was a long process.
Thank you very much. My name's Greg. I'm an alum of one of the Cultural Vistas programs. I was amazed when I saw the little anecdote in there about former heads of state who've done IVLP. I had to Google it just to get myself up to speed on this very quickly. If I'm reading this right, about 3 out of every 20 people who do this program have gone on to be a head of state. No. Well, it's high, whatever it is. You have hundreds of them.
There are a number of them, yeah.
You have a lot. And what I wanted to ask was, for those of you who've had sort of a very recent insight into who these people are and what brings them together, are there any consistent attributes that you saw about the people who participated, anything that unites all of them that makes them quintessentially IVLP people?
Sure. I think that the visitors who are those top-level people who are going to go on to greatness are those people who really get it. They can look at a situation, they can understand it, and they're open to it. We've had a lot of visitors who just, an example is we had a group from Latin America, and there were 3 women from Venezuela who we met with a group that trains Republican women to become politicians. And once they found out that they were talking to Republicans, they just took their phones off and stopped listening. And those are the people who are not going to move on. Those are the people who are just set in their ways and they think they know what's what. The people who sit there, listen, try and take all of this in and create a narrative for themselves for what's going to work for them back home are really the people who are going to move on, move forward in their career. And I think those are the people that we want to be bringing over and engaging with.
I think I would like to say that I think some people who have internal fire, curiosity, and they have a leadership skills on day one. When they arrive, you see those leaders. They are leaders, and they're very curious, and they have a fire. And I think those people are moving on and going high.
And I guess I would also expound upon, as was mentioned in the film, the individuals that are selected for this program are selected by the U.S. embassies in those countries, every country in the United States, or excuse me, every country in the world, excuse me. And they are, and they're screened. Not everybody who is selected obviously gets through the system. So they're screened by the main State Department here for those that they think are have the best promise. So as Natasha mentioned, if you're recognized in your country, in Ukraine or Bosnia and Herzegovina, I mean, you know, the embassy will watch you, and they don't tell you. They don't say that they're watching you. They put your name to the State Department and say, I want to bring this person because she's a rising leader in youth leadership. And if the State Department says yes, that's when the embassy goes out and puts the invitation out. So in many cases, it's the individuals who already showed that fire and perhaps that openness in their country already. And so maybe that's why they almost self-select that first step in that process.
Let me add just one more thing. I think it was a year or two ago, there was an article written just about this, how there are about 350 people who have gone on to be current or former heads of state. And the question that the article was asking was, is this a program that selects people who already have these attributes, or by being selected for this program, are we sort of picking and choosing who's going to be heads of state and go on to be, and I really do think that it is, the State Department does a great job of selecting people who are already on that path, and we're bringing them here to help them along in what they're doing, but whether or not they came here, I think that they really are the people who are going to be leaders in their community. Maybe they aren't going on to be president, maybe they're leading an NGO that's doing great work, but I think that the State Department does a really good job of identifying people who are already doing great work.
Hello, my name is Prem Sagar. I am also on a professional exchange program called Atlas Corps. I'm from Pakistan. First of all, congratulations for the capturing it comprehensively. I just I was looking in the video and I was trying to find out, there was a very well articulated what the IVLP leaders learned from US, what they learned from US. But it was somehow it wasn't there that what US learned from them. So maybe like those clips which you didn't include there and which say something about what US host organization, what US CBO, NGO, state government learn from them. That would be great.
So I think one of the biggest benefits of this program for Americans is, especially with groups such as this that are focused on youth, is that they get to meet with youth. And we'll take them to high schools, and we'll take them to meet with, I know this group met with the Legislative Youth Advisory Council in New Hampshire, and they got to meet with high school and college students. And that really changes perspectives of up-and-coming American youth who maybe hadn't really thought of what was going on in the world around them. But they know that, okay, we have a group coming from Europe, or we have a group coming from Pakistan or wherever, and they take the time to read up on those countries, read up on the issues going on in those areas, so that they can talk intelligently with these visitors. I think also the home hospitalities really make a huge difference in people's lives here in the US. Not only do they learn about countries and learn about cultures, but they make great friends that they can continue to talk to and visit with. We have people who are still in touch with some of the visitors they've hosted, and they'll get out of the blue a Merry Christmas or a Happy Birthday through Facebook or through email. And it's just nice to know that there are these connections being built throughout the world, and I really do think it brings a new understanding. And then finally, I think that the meetings that these visitors have are really a two-way exchange, where a meeting host from the US will learn as much about the work that they're both working on. It really, I think, helps them to look at their issues in a new light and understand the common issues that both countries are facing, and I think it gives them some new ideas as to how they can outreach to their communities.
There was also at the home hospitality, there's shots of it from in Austin, Texas, where Baron Guns, the participant from Turkey, he was one of the head protester in the Gezi Park protests in Turkey. And so there was a group of high school kids at the home visit, and they all were studying some type of international studies at their high school. And so I talked to one of them. I said, "Do you know what he was involved in?" And then he had a circle around them of these high school kids, telling them about his experience and how, for example, Starbucks stayed open 24 hours and handed protesters lemons for their eyes for the tear gas, you know. And so he told very specific stories to them, and they were, you know, wide-eyed, and he probably spoke to them for 45 minutes. So I think they definitely learned a lot from him.
Yeah, and I would like to add also that a few visitors told me that they were really surprised how genuinely interested Americans were learn about the country. Some of them actually was well informed, and they were said it was great to actually have opportunity to share about where I came from and what my country does and what young people, what challenges young people are facing. So it was a great experience. So I heard from 4 or 5 visitors who said, Americans want to learn about us.
And I think in terms of maybe not this particular group, although it was alluded to in the video, partnerships do form between organizations in the United States and the countries that are represented in the program. And if you want to move from soft diplomacy to hard diplomacy, it turns into trade. It turns into sharing of tactics in combating domestic violence. So I think the United States the people in the United States do learn from their counterparts overseas. And again, it is a two-way street. And I think a great example of the number of different entrepreneur programs that have been going on in the last couple of years that the State Department has organized through the IVLP. These are connections of people that are doing business together. So if you want to move to hard facts, which sometimes we're forced to do, those are hard facts. These are creating opportunities and partnerships that lead to tangible results, tangible perhaps financial results between the two countries. One more question?
I'm Holly Pratt. I'm the director of the Wyoming Council for International Visitors, and I appreciated what you put up there, but to build on what this gentleman from Pakistan just said, our organization, we are a non-government organization. We're a nonprofit organization, so we often talk about who are our clients and conveying the message of what we as United States citizens get out of these exchanges, I think, is a real challenge to all of us. And so I'm curious, in any of the cities, because there was filming going on, did you was there any effort to sort of accelerate the media presence, any press releases, so communities knew that Concord is going to be featured, and if not, maybe next time we do that, and so we add that little element.
Yeah, and that's something that we try to do with all of our groups, is to get the media involved and interested. It's sometimes easier said than done. But we have had some good successes with more of the local papers. We actually just had a group from Kazakhstan that we took to a town government, and they wrote a story for the newspaper and put it out for us. We try and get, especially back to the high school students, we try and get the local paper for whichever high school we're going to involved in it. This particular group, we were a little less successful with getting the word out, but I think it's always a great idea to try and get the newspapers involved. The TV involved. In New Hampshire, we have a program called New Hampshire Chronicle where they highlight on the local news different activities going on in the state. And so that's one of our goals, is to get one of our programs or just an explanation of what the program is on TV so that people can figure out what we're doing, because it is something that is really important for people to know about, and we're a bit of a hidden jewel, as people like to say, of internationalism, and that's something that New Hampshire unfortunately does really lack. We're about 96% Caucasian, so it's nice to get people noticing that we are bringing these international people to the state. And I think with especially the high school students, it's great that they have opportunities to meet with people like that, and we're always trying to expand out our network into different meeting hosts, different home hospitality hosts, and different people that we can interact with.
And of course, social media as well, Holly, too, because Kate actually got me on Facebook, and that's not easy to do. So
Really sorry.
we do that pretty quickly. Can we have one more question? Patricia, you got to? Sorry.
Can you tell us about your plans for wider distribution? When can we get this on Netflix?
We were talking to Alma about that today. Well, actually, the first show that we will have, and probably nobody else in the organization knows this, it will be up at Columbia University. One of the participants in our program is now at university there, and she is interested in her foreign affairs group, I guess, to learn about the IVLP program. And I said, well, hey, we got this. Instead of sending a speaker, why don't we just give you the video? And so that will be in early March. But otherwise, we do intend to take it out to the different communities in the CBM world and the community-based partnerships members world. And I don't know, Anthony, are you here in the room? You want to talk about other ways to? Or,
We'll send you all a link.
Yeah, I'll send you all a link. But I just want to thank you all for your presentation and your participation in our program and for coming tonight.
So I know I'm all that stands between drink and food, so I'll keep this very short. But again, I want to thank Dan, Kate, Natasha, and Tim for sharing some additional insights to the evening. And also, Dan is much too modest. He was the one who had this idea. I think you saw with the schedule that he has this week, this is one of the most passionate and committed individuals to exchange programs. And without him, we wouldn't have this today. So thank you, Dan. And I wanted to just share, I think, 2 takeaways that I think we all have from this evening. I think, one, our goal with the documentary and the conversation and the panel this evening was to talk about the impact that these programs have. And I think the video and the insights we heard and the additional video from the alumni once they've gotten home have really proven that these programs have an incredible impact. They really do help change the world, one person, one exchange at a time. And I think the second big takeaway I see in this, and again, it was in the video and with everybody here in this room, that it really takes a community of passionate, committed individuals like all of us in this room, the volunteers around the country that put their time and effort into these programs. We all are really trying to make this world a better place, and it wouldn't happen without all of us and this community that we bring together. So again, a big thanks to everybody here for all that you do to try and make these programs a success and to change the world. And I think one other thing, I mean, we heard yesterday, I guess, the budget was announced for State Department programs, and President Obama has called for $623 million for exchange programs, which sounds like an incredibly big number. But I think when you put that into comparison to the Pentagon budget, it's 1/10% of $535 billion, which is truly amazing. And I think I mention that because, again, we're all changing the world, and we've got a lot of new programs that are being developed in different regions of the world. We have traditional programs that are taking place, and I think even that last question about how it's going to be released and are we promoting this to the wider community, I think I want to have us all leave here more engaged, more excited, more vocal about the impact and the importance of these programs, because it really is going to be all of us that convince others that we need to continue these programs, whether it's IVLP, Fulbright, CBYX. Again, the list goes on and on. These programs are life-changing, and all of us are responsible for making that happen. So we're really excited about that. We're excited to be more involved here in DC in the future. We're going to be opening up a new office soon. We'll be doing more events. We'll be working closely with Global Ties, our neighbor in that space. So we're very excited about that. With that, I wish you all a wonderful evening. Please enjoy the reception. The food that's being served represents the 12 different countries that were on the program in the IVLP documentary that we just saw. So enjoy that. Thank you all for coming. Have a good evening.